And that was a change in the law that the governor enacted in June of 2012.
So will this be standard procedure going forward from today?
We'll just, the board will have to just coordinate a little bit and get our timing.
Okay, especially on the executive session, you know, clarifying that will be something that will be put into motion now?
Well, that's already in motion.
Okay, but it wasn't tonight though?
No, it wasn't for tonight.
Okay.
Just,
But we didn't say any more than that about our executive session.
No,
Except to
well,
describe-
just to
Right.
understand, you know, there are things that come up between, let's say, a Friday and a Tuesday, you know, when you guys have your meetings. So you always have the ability to add items and remove items from your agenda, whether they're regular items or executive session items. That's where you have your motion process here at the meeting. But we can coordinate a little better and make sure that we can address those things.
if you go back in the minutes of the village board, this was talked about over a year ago, after the law was first passed. So, I mean, it predates Mike's time as attorney, but, I mean, it's been on the table for a long time.
What has?
The change in the open meetings law and compliance, having the materials available beforehand.
Oh, right.
I've actually
Yeah,
worked with
that's all
Mary a
of
few
them.
times about trying to get things. I mean, the document scanner was part of that thing.
And again, I remember all of it because it was a pretty hot item back in those days. At the same time, Mary as well, the board's well aware that we, like Mike just mentioned, from Friday to Tuesday, we almost every week get something else that we can consider adding to the agenda. If it came to the two presentations as far as the problem with icing or the peddling permit, that's something that just brought to our attention. It's under correspondence. Is that something we would have a separate table where people attending the meeting tonight could actually see pictures of what we're discussing at the meeting, at our workshop? Is that
What you you can implement I guess a variation of things, but let's say, you know, I guess the more, I don't want to use the word standard, but it probably is the more appropriate word is whatever the meeting is before your regular meeting. And again, you guys kind of run a little bit of a hybrid because you have a number of regular meetings a month as opposed to, let's say, 2 work sessions, 2 regular meetings. In order to facilitate having everything ready, let's say the Friday before a meeting and upload it to the website, it would be appropriate to have a work session on a Tuesday. The items identified for the next agenda right then and there for that Tuesday, which we could work on, actually have the work session, and then you could direct what resolution should be prepared for the following Tuesday to be adopted at, let's say, the next regular meeting. So it's just a little bit of a timing thing that we should, you know, consider getting into place, is doing that as opposed to regular meeting, you know, because it would be, you'd cripple, you know, your resources if you, you know, so we should consider that, and then that would give us the, you know, the necessary timing that we need to put that into effect fully.
okay, thanks. Anyone else? All right, Mary, so we do, sorry.
Well, I don't know, I'm just trying to clarify what was discussed here. Is it kind of, what I'm hearing is like the absolute minimum that really is needed by the public is an agenda and actionable items such as things upon which, you know, action is going to be taken? Or is there a wider array of needs such as, you know, the letter from and so on and so forth as an issue? Does that all have to immediately be available to the public, or just in consideration of the available time and the workload of the village board? What's the minimum requirement of that open law board?
Well, correspondence is generally your, I mean, you guys read your correspondence at your meetings, so things that come in. What most boards do is put in a deadline. So for instance, if you want to be on, let's say regular meetings were once a month, you may have a deadline 10 days before that regular meeting, and that would be, you know, before the work session, or let's say it was 15 days, however, whatever the deadline is, you generally have a deadline to get onto the agenda, and the matter would be discussed at the following work session, and then whatever the action item would be, that action would be taken at the then next regular meeting. Sometimes that causes a little bit of a delay. So for instance, let's say you have something that needs to be taken care of, you reach out to the Board of Trustees a week before the regular meeting. So you've missed now the work session cutoff, right? So now you're on the next work session, then you're on the next regular meeting. This board in particular, if it comes in, it generally just gets put on the next agenda. And while I think, you guys, handle things pretty quickly as they come in, or at least tee them up to be dealt with, however it's gonna be dealt with by the Board of Trustees. I guess the disadvantage is, the public may have no idea about the items until, they're read off or put on the agenda. So that, leaves you at a little bit of a disadvantage because you're hearing about it for the first time at the meeting, which is, it's not bad, but it, may not give you the lead time if you want to do some research on that particular item.
I'm just wondering if it's reflective of the, capacity of resources of the village board, clerically or otherwise, and in relationship to the workload, that, is that a balance, or is that?
Well, we have to
something
create that. And we can create that by implementing the right time frame. And once we do that, that'll give Mary and I the time to work together to make sure our resolutions are teed up and get onto the website.
But the important thing to remember, though, is, it may be inconvenient and there are ways to deal with it, but it is the law. So absent an emergency situation or some extraordinary situation that requires something to be teed up or put on the agenda for that evening with less than 3 days' notice, you're really going to have to take a careful read of what the open meetings law requirements are, because it creates a liability for the village going forward. And that really, that's what our attorney on the planning board is always telling us that we have to be cognizant of, right? Because you have to create the record, and it has to be something that if it's subject to challenge or being contested, it has to be uniform throughout the village. So,
I'll take another look.
thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, so we have a motion to approve